When dealing with abstract questions on sine and cosine graphs, where we are not given the equation of the graph, it is important to recognize that each period, so each basic building block, can be broken down into 4 sections of equal width, which will be 1/4 of the period. This can help us obtain coordinates of the named points and indeed find the equation of the graph. The graph of the trigonometric function y equals f of x, where x is in degrees, is shown below. So our x-axis is in degrees. The coordinates of the points A and B are -32 and 15,7 respectively. So A is the point -32 and B is the point 15,7. So A is -32 and B is 15,7. Part 1, state whether f of x is a sine function or a cosine function, give a reason. Part 2, write the equation of the graph. Part 3, find the coordinates of the points C and D. So point C and point D. So part 1, state whether f of x is a sine function or a cosine function and give a reason. So as the graph crosses the midway line on the y-axis, we take f of x to be the sine function. So for example, here's the graph of y equals sine of x, below in red, and we can see that it crosses the y-axis at the point 0, 0. And since the midway line for the graph of y equals sine of x is the actual x-axis itself, it is crossing the midway line on the y-axis. So here's the y-axis, and this is the point at which it crosses the y-axis. So if we have a look at the graph that we were given, we can see that this is the midway line. Obviously it is not the x-axis, it is somewhere above the x-axis, but the graph crosses the y-axis at the midway line, and that's the main point. So since this graph crosses the y-axis at the midway line, it must be the sine graph. If this was not the case, it would be the cosine function. Part 2. Write the equation of the graph. We're going to let f of x equal a plus b sine of cx. We know it's a sine graph from part 1. So we need to just find the values of a, b and c. To find the values of a, b and c, we need to analyse the graph carefully. Draw the lines and mark in the values shown. So since a is the point -32, then this must be the point 2 on the y-axis. And since this is the point 15,7, this must be the point 7 on the y-axis. So we can mark in 7 on this second graph over here, and 2. So 2 is the midway line. So the distance from 2 to 7 is 5. So from here to here is going to be 5. And from here to here is going to be 5. So this point here must be 2 plus 3, which makes 5. So this must be -3 on the y-axis. And again, since this is the point B and it's 15, then this must be 15 on the x-axis. So this must be 15 on the x-axis. So we can go across in intervals of 15s. So we've drawn in the lines and we've marked in the values. Okay, so from the graph we can determine the following. The midway line is y equals 2, because this is 2 on the y-axis. Thus a is equal to 2. So the a in our formula is 2. The orientation of the curve about the midway line is normal. The graph has not been flipped. Thus b is positive. So the b, whatever stuck on in front of the sign, is going to be positive. The amplitude is going to be 7 minus 2, which is 5. Thus b is equal to 5. Because the maximum point of the graph is 7, the midway line was 2, 7 minus 2 is 5. So b is 5. So the number stuck on in front of the sign is 5. The period, which is the width of one repeating block, is going to be 4 multiplied by 15, which is 60 degrees. Because we see that this is the point at which our graph starts, our building block starts. And this is the point at which it ends. So 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 is 60 degrees. Thus, 360 degrees divided by C is going to be 60 degrees. So C is going to be 360 degrees divided by 60, which is 6. So the period is going to be 6. Thus, the equation of the graph is y equals 2 plus 5 sine of 6x. Part 3, find the coordinates of the points C and D. So C and D. So from the graph, the y coordinates of C is going to be 2 minus 5, which is minus 3. Because remember, 2 was the midway line. We know that we have an amplitude of 5, so we have to minus 5, and 2 minus 5 is minus 3. So we definitely have minus 3 as a y value for point C. And then to get the 45, well, we know that the point B matches up with 15 on the x-axis. And 15 plus 15 plus 15 gives us 45. So the point C is 45 minus 3. And then the point D is going to be 92. So we definitely have a y value of 2 because, again, the point D matches up with the midway line. And then to get 90, well, if we're already at 45 here, add on 15 and another 15 and another 15, we get to 90. So the point C is 45 minus 3 and the point D is 92.